Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining the Nonprofit Midlands group. I'm Emma Keeling and I'm a Salesforce Nonprofit consultant. And I am joined today by a new co-host, Yvonne Small.
So I am the database coordinator for War Child UK, relatively new to the nonprofit sector and loving it so far.
Amazing. And then we've got two great presenters with us today. So we've got David. David's waving for everybody, and I'm sure David will introduce himself when we get to his presentation.
Yeah, I don't want to hog up anyone's time by babbling now and then during my slot, so I'm trying to keep quiet.
That sounds good to me. And then we've got Debra, and Debra is here from Validity, and she's going to give us an amazing demo of something that I'm really excited about. So let's crack on. Okay, so welcome everybody. Well, that's good, isn't it, when your slides freeze? Here we go. Before we start, because I will forget later on, I'm just going to do a couple of announcements. So we've also started hosting a weekly non-profit coffee chat at 4:30 till 5:30 UK. It says every week. I didn't put the day on. It's on a Thursday. So immediately after this session today, we will wrap up, and we need to wrap up at 4:30 so we can transition, but anybody can come with us. So even if you've not signed up, just shout and I'll give you the link if you want to come along. But this is going to be kind of a weekly event. What we're trying to do is just bring together non-profit experts and non-profits so that we can work together and we can kind of help solve people's problems, or, you know, signpost them in the right direction and all of that. And to just make it kind of an informal, like a kind of knit and natter, you know, kind of group, and kind of help people form some relationships and things as well. We had our first session last week and that went really well. Other thing to announce is I've got to save the date for you. I don't believe this date will now change. We've got the UK and Ireland joint non-profit virtual event on Wednesday, the 28th of September from 2:30 till 4:15 UK. We are joining with the London group and with the Dublin group. So, and if we happen to find anybody from Manchester and Scotland, you never know, they might be there too. But at the moment, definitely the three of us, and we're going to be hosting some fab content for that. We're just putting together things like speakers and so on, and that should come out over the summer. So keep your eye out for that. It will get shared to anybody who follows our group on Bevy, and we'll also put it in our community group as well. So we've done like welcomes and intros and all that. Let's crack on. At least that gives us a little bit more time. So we've got, first up, we've got David. He's going to be talking to us for about 20 minutes about data cleanliness. And then Debra is going to do us a demo of DemandTools Elements. And then following that, we've got some breakout sessions. So we will have a general session, and then we will have a data cleanliness session. So when it comes to those, you can decide where you want to go, and we'll open up a breakout room for those. And then about 4:15, we'll do the closing, including a duck race, and we've got a couple of prizes for that. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to David.
Hey!
And David should now be able to share.
Yeah, let's just confirm. Let's do the screen share. All right, you guys should be able to see my screen. Right?
Yes,
you can.
we can.
Correct. Okay, good. So first of all, thank you all for having me and for taking time out of your day to chat about data quality in Salesforce. And this is such a hot issue, and it's funny because most of the time people don't want to, nobody in the organization really feels that this issue sits on their lap, like they are not accountable. It's somebody else's problem. It's somebody else's fault. And everything ends up getting screwed up if the data is not good. Because in the end, what is Salesforce? Salesforce is simply a database. It's in the perfect world, it's the centralized database for the organization. But if the data quality is not reliable, it's a huge waste. It's useless. And to me, what's so remarkable is that when it's something that's so important and everyone who's using the system and is capable of modifying data or of entering new records, and none of them feel accountable for the data quality itself, it's like, then who the heck's gonna do it? So for me as an outsider for the organization, I'm the one who's, sort of calling the baby ugly and saying, hey, I'm the external Salesforce consultant. It's not my responsibility to clean up your data, let alone even if I wanted to take that on, I have no idea if the record that you have for George Clooney is accurate or not. I don't know what his mailing address is. I don't know when's the last time you spoke to him. I don't know who the other family members are from within his household. I have no clue. You guys probably do because you've had some interaction with him. Anyway, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so this is a topic that is tremendous. There is so much to unpack. In reality, we could be talking just about this one topic and all of the nuances associated with it for several weeks. But I've consolidated it into a very, very brief presentation here to highlight the overall framework of how I work with any organization that is struggling with data quality issues. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is David Giller. I am based in the New York City area. I am a Salesforce consultant. I'm a Salesforce trainer. I'm also a user group leader for the Northern New Jersey user group. And like I said, I'm excited to talk about this topic because it's so important, so relevant. Anyway, let's move on. So what you're going to see over here, First, let's try to get an understanding of the different data quality issues that we might have within an organization. Because when we start talking about data quality, if you have any level of responsibility for Salesforce, whether your title is Salesforce admin, office manager, executive director of a nonprofit, once you start like taking on this concept of, oh, our data quality in Salesforce leaves a lot to be desired, it can feel incredibly overwhelming. So let's sort of unpack what are the different issues that really exist when we're talking about data quality concerns or data quality issues, because a lot of people will just automatically only talk about duplicates and nothing else. Duplicates is just one kind of data quality issue that we might have within the organization. Okay, so what do we have over here? The first one is duplicates. Okay, let's get that out of the way. And what does we mean by a duplicate? Every time I talk to a client and they say, doesn't Salesforce have a way of eliminating duplicates? And I turn to them and say, yeah, it has not of eliminating duplicates, of identifying a potential duplicate. And it's up to you, the user, to validate and merge the multiple records that could potentially be duplicates. But my question to you is this: how do you define a duplicate? And they'll always say, well, it's the same person. Okay, how do we know if it's the same person? Because you could have multiple records for George Clooney. None of them have an email address. Each of them have a different phone number, or none of them have a phone number. Each of them has a different email address. Sometimes it's spelled incorrectly. Sometimes it's abbreviated. The first name is abbreviated. One time it's G Clooney. Another times it's Georgie Clooney. And other times it's something else. And what is a duplicate? How do we know if it's actually truly the same record or not? And that's really hard. All of a sudden they're stumped. The same person who was defiant on just turn on the duplicate thing in Salesforce to clean it up, all of a sudden they themselves can't define what is a duplicate. And I turn to them and I say, how do you expect Salesforce to define it if you can't yourself? It's your data. So once you define it, we can start putting together rules to at least flag all of those records. Okay, so we have duplicates. Next one, we've got outdated records. So information where it might have been accurate at one point in time. It's not accurate anymore today. So it's old. Next, we have incorrect data. An example of that is where we have a postal code that doesn't match the geographic region in where that person or that company is located. So it's simply inaccurate. It was never correct. And the last example of data quality issues that we have here is non-compliant data. Non-compliant, not as in terms of laws or regulations that we need to abide by, but even, I mean, it could be that, but it could be just our own internal policy. If we divvy up, if we assign customers and prospects or deals based on the geographic region or based on the industry or based on the company size, or if, let's say, in a nonprofit, we are assigning the who's responsible for the donors based on their geographic location, and we don't have the geographic location criteria that is used to determine who is supposed to follow up on that issue, on that donor, on that donation, on that volunteer request, how the heck are we supposed to do anything? So non-compliant means it's simply not compatible with our own internal policies and procedures. I'll pause. Any questions on any of this? Okay, so now that we've got this out of the way, now let's talk about, oh my God, we've got all of these issues in our system. How the heck does this happen? It's actually incredibly simple. Let's just think about all the different ways the data gets into the system. So a lot of times we've got APIs or integrations, and a lot of times, especially for nonprofits, they'll be like, oh no, we don't have any integrations. We're just a small little nonprofit. Excuse me, are you using Outlook at Gmail? Did someone turn on the synchronization between Outlook and Gmail? And when they turned it on and they decided to sync all contacts in Outlook with Salesforce, do you realize that now everyone on the team, their babysitter, their mother-in-law, their pediatrician, are all shoved into Salesforce? How many contacts do we have with the name mom? So that's an integration. That's an API, whether we like it or not. So we could have any kind of integration. Lots of nonprofits utilize, rightfully so, I am not criticizing it whatsoever, utilize all sorts of other tools, let's say for getting people to RSVP for upcoming meetups, or for taking in donations, or for sign-up forms or contact us forms. Those are all integration. I mean, if they're connected to Salesforce, and you could be connecting it either natively or through Zapier. But either way, those are all integrations that we have going on within the system. So that's one mechanism by which the quote unquote dirty data, whoa, my desk is moving here. I've got a standing desk where you press buttons and it just goes up and down. And I accidentally press something. I'm like, whoa, what the hell is it moving? Is it an earthquake or what? Anyway, the next one is data that's fed via the web. And this might sound nearly identical to what I just mentioned a moment ago, but not necessarily, because data fed through the web, sure, it can happen through a web form, like you're meaning like a form assembly type of a tool, or donor box type of a tool, but those are really APIs integrations. What we're talking about over here is where natively through Salesforce, we have some type of web form that when you hit submit, there is no other system that is being utilized. It's simply pushing the data directly into Salesforce as if the web visitor logged into your Salesforce and created a new record. And some examples of that are web to lead, web to case, or if your organization is using what used to be called Community Cloud and what's now called Experience Cloud. And a lot of people refer to it as a customer portal. That's another example of how data can get into the system through the web. Specifically, by the way, I'm not even talking about email to case or email to lead, because oh my God, just shoot me now. That's a whole other therapy. I mean, presentation. Anyway, we also have sort of obvious data that gets manually entered by users. Someone is actually logging into the system, they're clicking in and they're creating a new record or updating an existing record, and they're manually putting in information that maybe there are omissions or it's incomplete or inaccurate data. And then we've got the favorite, which is batch uploading. And I think we've all been there more times than we can count, where someone hands us a spreadsheet and says, just upload it into Salesforce. They're not looking, forget that they're not even looking to see whether or not those records exist in Salesforce already or not. They're not even looking within the spreadsheet itself to see whether or not the column in the spreadsheet that on the top, the header of that row says email address, but down below, it's actually a phone number in there, not an email address. Or there are duplicates within the spreadsheet itself. And usually the person who's handing us a spreadsheet has no interest and no time to review the spreadsheet. And they always assume that importing the data into Salesforce is going to be as easy as adding an attachment to an email. So they just want it done. They don't want to review it themselves. They don't want or expect you to review it. Just, are you done uploading the data? So that's another way that en masse, horrific data gets entered into the system. Any questions on any of this? Okay. All right, so now that we know what we mean by dirty data and the different ways that dirty data gets into the system, let's talk about what we can do about it. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to start identifying internally within our organization what are the different sources of how the problematic data is coming in. Are we using Outlook? Do we have an integration with Outlook and Salesforce? Do we have a synchronization that's getting turned on? Maybe we should turn it off. Maybe we should teach people how to use it. Maybe we should refine the synchronization. Are we importing spreadsheets into Salesforce? Maybe we need to review the mechanism in which that is actually happening. So first we need to identify the different sources. Maybe it's simply one employee who is manually putting in all of the incorrect, inaccurate data. Everybody else is doing everything perfectly fine. So we need to identify the different sources that are appropriate for your organization. Then what we need to do is we need to stop the bleeding. So we're not talking yet about the existing records. We're talking, when we say stop the bleeding, we're talking about how do we fix moving forward that the dirty data should not even come into the system. What are the different things that we can do? And this is where we need to explore things like updating the technical configuration. Maybe we need to start utilizing some more pick lists so that people have, it'll avoid typos. So they have a predefined list of options where appropriate to choose those options instead of just typing things in and making abbreviations and coming up with all sorts of creative other variations that are not appropriate. Maybe we just need to start leveraging reports and list views so that we are calling out the problematic records. So let's say all of those records that don't have a postal code, but we want and expect there to be a postal code. Maybe it's for all of the tier 1 donors that maybe they have a postal code, but they don't have a street address or they don't have an email address. So, maybe we don't necessarily need internally an email address for everyone. It's only for specific people. We really want to crack down and make sure that we have an email address for them. So we're not at all saying just delete those records. No, pull a report of those records, pull a list view of those records, and then we can see who was the person who last modified those records, who was the person who created those records, and start following up with those individuals. Hey, we're missing the following pieces of information. Can you go ahead and fix that, please? Can you go ahead and follow up with these people to find out their email address, their street mailing address, etc. So those are some of the different ways that we can stop the bleeding. And of course, let's not forget, we can have our own internal protocols. Dude, next time you send me a spreadsheet to import it into Salesforce, can you please make sure and review the following things so that we will make sure to not bulk create inaccurate records in the system that are going to make every report look super ugly very quickly. Lastly, we're going to tackle cleaning up the existing data. And this can absolutely feel overwhelming, to say the least. The best thing that I can say is, first of all, let's prioritize. So we're not going to clean everything. Let's prioritize what is the biggest pain that we have within the organization. Is the biggest pain that when we try to do a bulk mailing, let's say email campaign, that most of our records or most of our tier 1 donors do not have an email address. Okay, if that's the pain, then we need to address that. Forget all of the other issues that we might have. Let's address this big pain point, whatever that pain point is, depending on the goals, the objectives that are going on within your organization. And that's where we can decide to either start exploring some data enrichment tools, and there are many to choose from in the marketplace, data enrichment tools that can perhaps bulk clean up or fill in the missing gaps or update the records that need some TLC, I'll say, or alternatively, to start manually reviewing and updating the records. And that can absolutely be done directly in Salesforce, or alternatively, if you want to do it in batch, then you would need to download it in Excel and start doing all of that in Excel. Any questions on any of this? No? All righty. Okay, so what can you do next? What you can do next is, if you're interested in exploring this topic even more, I'm going to put in the chat right now a hyperlink for a YouTube video that I posted a couple of months ago, specifically unpacking in more detail these issues. I tried to abbreviate from a timing perspective, how I'm going to utilize this time in the best way. But I think this video will help you get a much better understanding of all of the different things that you can do in order to help clean up the data within your Salesforce org. And that's it for me. If anyone has any questions, I am happy to address them.
That was a fab session, David. Thank you.
Thank
I think
you.
we'll be checking out that YouTube video. Does anybody have any questions for David or any thoughts? Personally, I love stop the bleeding. Like, how true is that? Like,
yeah, it's really painful. And I'm telling you, I deal with this with almost every client, every project that I'm working on. Just yesterday, I was in a meeting with a client where they were telling me how it was a new client, and they were telling me how they have a phone integration with their phone system. It's a phone system I've never heard of before. Okay, it's not a big deal. There's a lot that I've never heard of before. And they have it integrated with Salesforce that all the calls are logged. And the individual I was talking to is the head of customer support. And basically I said, okay, talk to me a little bit about the process and everything that you have with around customer support. Make believe I'm a brand new employee. I'm the 5th member of your team. And today's my first day on the job. Teach me what it is I need to know about the job. And he starts pulling up a report from Salesforce that shows the call logs that have come in day by day. And I'm looking at the report, and the report type is activities. And I'm like, wait a minute, these are calls. These are not actually cases, the cases that your team is working on. He goes, right, this is what the phone integration, all the records that we're looking at here, like the people who are answering calls, they're not logging anything in Salesforce. They're actually resolving the ticket by working in this other system. And the report we're looking at here is simply the call logs that have come in. I said, okay, if I'm the CEO and I want to know, I'm about to maybe get rid of the entire customer support team, I want to know, like, what kind of tickets are we getting? How many tickets do we often get? What are the types of customers that are giving us tickets? How long does it take for us to resolve the tickets? I can't tell any of that by looking at these call logs, because in theory, you could have, for one ticket, you could have many, many different phone calls that could happen. And on the flip side, you could have one call where there are actually 3 tickets that are involved. And then he starts drilling in more, and I'm seeing that the contacts that they have, what happens is with this phone integration system, it looks based on caller ID, it looks for a record that has a matching phone number based on caller ID. And if it doesn't find one, it creates a contact. And the contact is called something like call log from phone integration. That's the first name. Last name has the phone number. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, this is useless. Like, you're bragging to me about these reports? These reports are useless to you. All it shows is how busy your team is on phone calls and how long they've been on the phone. It shows nothing as it relates to customer support tickets. If I'm an employee, how do I know? I come in tomorrow morning. How do I know which of the phone calls that I had yesterday or the day before do I still need to follow up on? How do I know that? He's like, yeah, they keep track of it in Excel. I'm like, oh my God, shoot me now. And that's an example where, like, they were not talking to me about their data quality issues. But just through organic conversation, I'm like, yeah, this is useless. You can't have, and by the way, I've seen this in so many organizations, especially really, really large organizations, where the sales reps just feel that it's beneath them to log into Salesforce and enter in data. So they want everything automated. Like, they want every single email that ever comes into anyone in the organization should just automatically go into Salesforce. Every phone call should just automatically, all of the calendar events that they have in their calendar should automatically go into Salesforce, and they think that the data is going to be useful. Okay, so now we could see all of the emails that your, let's say, significant other has sent you to your work email address, because they're all getting shoved into Salesforce based on the rules that you just defined. When your mother-in-law emails you complaining about whatever it is, yeah, that's getting into Salesforce too. And where you have like date night or a doctor's appointment for something that your colleagues should not really know about, those are getting logged into Salesforce and they're showing up on every single report. And like, it's useless. Totally useless. So anyway, like I said, I could talk forever about this topic, but I'll shut up. Thank you for having me. I hope you found value in this.
Thanks, David.
I was going to ask a question about duplicate rules, but I feel that like actually duplicate rules are just like one tiny little bit of like all of the data.
You can ask about it. It's totally cool.
So like there's just so many things. But yeah, so in a specific organization that I work with, we cannot switch on our duplicate rules because it messes with some sort of integration that we have. So I guess my question was, what's your best advice when you are in a situation unable to use duplicate rules or matching rules?
So first of all, let's unpack that scenario for a moment. And I'm familiar with it because I've seen many different use cases of it. So if you're comfortable sharing more details of like, what is the issue with the integration? If not, I can give an example of one. So Yvonne, do you have specifics, or do you want me to?
Well, ours is very specifically annoying insofar as we have a donation platform, but the integration has been code-based. As opposed to nicely declarative or through some sort of Zapier.
Understood.
So it's very specifically code based.
Okay,
so
but
the way that it's been set up means that if you put the duplicate rules in, the code breaks and therefore just nothing pulls through at all. So the only way that we could make it work was to switch the duplicate rules off.
Okay, so usually that happens because it's not so much an issue about the code. Usually the issue is that through the integration, let's say the email address is not getting populated for the contact. Or flip side, we know that the email address is getting populated, and we know that hopefully for a nonprofit, we have recurring donors. Same person is donating more than once. So when someone is filling out a web form to make a $10 donation, we hope that it's a recurring donor who's continues to come back, and that person already exists in Salesforce. And with a duplicate, so in my mind, it might not have anything to do with the fact that it's a code-based integration. As soon as that new record comes in, and George@gmail.com is already our contact as one of our favorite donors that we have in the system, the duplicate rule is saying, no, you go away. We already have a record for this person in the system. So usually that's the scenario. So in those kinds of scenarios, what I would say is, so you can turn one thing is you can turn the duplicate rules off. My favorite way of handling this, though, is by actually utilizing a tool called Cloud & Go. And if you're not familiar with Cloud & Go, it is a very powerful, not only duplicate management, but automated duplicate merging tool. Off the top of my head, in dollars, off the top of my head, it's like a little over $2,000 per company per year. That is super affordable, even for nonprofits on a shoestring budget. And basically what you do in Cloudingo is you set up logic similar to the way Salesforce has. You can set up your own custom logic, custom rules for the matching rules and the duplicate rules. You can set up your own custom logic exceptions and what fields it should look for. So similarly, in Cloudingo, you set up the rules of here's how we define a duplicate. And let's keep with the example I gave you before. Let's say we're going based off, let's say, just email address. If you find more than one record with the same email address, automatically merge them. Don't even tell me about it. Just merge the damn records. And then you're also telling Cloudingo how to perform the merge. In other words, if in one record, the first name is George, and in the second record, the first name is George parentheses dad, what should it do? Which first name value should survive the merge? So you can specify precisely which record. So you could specify always treat the one created by Susan as the master record, or always use the one that is most recent, or always use the one that is oldest, or always use the one that has the most data in it. And once you do that and you set it on an automated schedule, let's say 1 a.m., it will just automatically. So we know that when George goes ahead and makes another donation on the web form, it will temporarily create a duplicate in the system. But we also know that at 1 a.m. every single night, Cloudingo is going to do its magic and merge both of those records so that the duplicate only exists for a maximum of 24 hours in the system.
That's really interesting.
Awesome. Thanks, David.
My pleasure.
So I think we should now hand over to Debra, but maybe just before we do, because otherwise I'm going to forget to do this, can I get a photo of anybody who's happy to put their cameras on, and can we have a nice smiley picture so that we can
oh look, the glasses are coming off and everything.
I'll take my old man reading glasses off for that.
Brilliant. Anybody else? I'm holding on. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, we've got more. Okay, brilliant. Are we all ready? If I can, I don't actually know what button to press. That's really good, isn't it? Hold on.
You need to give us a 3, 2, 1.
Okay. So let me hold on. Right. 3, 2, 1, smile. Right, let me check the picture because last time I did this, the picture was so awful that I just couldn't share it. No, I think that's pretty good. I think we got that. Thanks, guys. Brilliant. Okay, so Debra, over to you.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Emma. Big shoes to fill after going after David. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. I'm just going to set this up. Share my screen, so you should be able to see my screen now. Can everyone see my screen?
We can, thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So with regards to, oh, here we go. I'll just make sure I'm on the right slide. So yeah, Emma approached me to talk today about the DemandTools Elements. Now, DemandTools Elements is quite new to Validity, and I'll go through in a little bit more detail, but it's a product that Validity have only launched in the last few months. So we're going to go through DemandTools Element, and it ties in really nicely with regards to what David was saying, from the dedupe side. So with regards to manual data management isn't enough to keep up with the digital world. So what we find is, to try and add some color to why manual data management won't keep up in the digital world is due to the average time of manual merging from one duplicate group, being 2 or more records is 3 minutes. So your average time assumed to manually merge a duplicate group is around about the 3 minutes. 3,000 duplicates for every 10,000 CRM records created, and 150 hours a month, which is 19-hour days to merge them. So duplicate records aren't your only data quality issue, but obviously they cause a lot of issues with regards to CRM systems. So on to the next slide. With regards to DemandTools Elements only has the one product of DemandTools, which is a duplicate dashboard. So this is new to Validity, like I mentioned earlier. And what it allows you to do is to monitor the number of duplicates in Salesforce and to ensure your scenarios are addressing the many ways duplicates can be identified. So it creates this dashboard for you. You can get started fast with pre-configured matching rules and create your own. You can also see the total number of duplicates for leads, accounts, contacts, and objects you have in your org. It works with custom objects as well. And you can schedule your deduplication scenarios to run automatically. So you can find a way that you use it to work out whether you've got duplicates. And I'll show you a scenario after this. But also you can quickly access save scenarios to take immediate action or see when they're scheduled next to run. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and go into the demo org. Just need to, sorry, in the slideshow to get the next slide up. So I'm going to go here. I don't know if anyone has any questions so far. All quiet. Okay, so can you see the org?
Yep, we can.
Okay, fantastic. So this is what DemandTools looks like. So with regards to DemandTools element, you're only going to have the one area of DemandTools, which is your dedupe scenario. So this is what you're going to have the dedupe side, but Validity have created lots of pre-built scenarios for you. So we've got these already pre-built for you, and then you can tailor them to your organization. So I'm just going to go back onto the DemandTools, and I'm going to work with a scenario that I created earlier specifically for today. So I'm just going to pull down. You can see the great thing with regards to the home page is you can see scenarios that have been created and when they were last run, etc. So I'm just going to go up, and it was like 2 days ago. There we go. So you can see here, for example, this was last run 2 days ago, but this was a scenario that I created to kind of show you how easy it is to create jobs within the tools. So I'm, for example, wanting to look at my contact records in Salesforce. Now, DemandTools connects directly to your Salesforce, so we don't touch your data at all. When you log into the tools, you'll log in through your Salesforce, and I'll show you how it's connected in a moment. So this is all your data that you'll be cleaning, and it will come up with your, the objects that you're working with, your fields, etc., that are in your Salesforce system. So the object that I'm wanting to dedupe is the contact record, and I'm wanting to see, any, contacts where the email address is empty to bring them up. I'm also wanting to then look at the fields that I'd like to display to see if they're duplicates is the email address, the first name, and the last name. So I'm making it quite broad because I just want to try and catch as many duplicates as possible. So then I'm going to go across to the next side, which is going to be on the match rules. And I want to make sure that the first name matches. Now you can see to the right-hand side of the screen, we've got various different rules where you've got your matching, your fuzzy matching, your transpose value, and your alpha clean. So what the fuzzy matching does is it does a sound like match. So it drops the vowels from the words and picks up lots of spelling mistakes, which can be created. The transpose flips the words around or multiple changes around. So for example, Hugo Boss becomes Boss Hugo, and then alpha clean will remove all but 26 characters of the English alphabet. So numbers 0 to 9, getting rid of brackets, etc., hyphens, and tidying up your data that way. So you can then choose which ones you're wanting to view, and then you can also, I've got the email address. I want the first name and the email address to match. So I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to go manage merges. And this will then, normally depending how big how much data you've got in your database, depends how long it takes to merge the different options. So in our case, we've got 15,475 records. This is just merging. And probably in about a couple of seconds, we've got our report on these are all the duplicates that have been found in our system. So what you might find is when you're quite new to the tools, you might rather want to be kind of going in and looking at things, you know, choosing which ones you're wanting to merge. So you can go into a winner rule and you can just manually choose which ones you're wanting to make the main person. So you just click on the little trophy and that will be the winning record. Otherwise, what's really handy to do, and that saves a lot of time, is to go in and make a winning rule. So you can go in and you can create a rule. So in this particular example, we've got a duplicate email rule, so I can just apply the winning rule. And I've kind of done a scoring based system. So maybe one that's got the most records, you know, attached to the one that's got the most activity, the one that's got a valid email address, you know, there's loads of things that, you know, or maybe recently created or the longest record. So you can go in and you can score them. So if you have a look down, a lot of these didn't meet any of the criteria, so then you'll probably manually go into it. But, you know, you'll know your database better when you're working with these tools. But for example, you can see here the duplicates, we've got 2 Mark Doherty's and the one scored 159 points and the other one's 50. So automatically the system can choose which one is going to be our winner. Does anyone have any questions?
I had a quick question actually. Can we add more columns to that?
Yeah, you can choose whichever.
Specifically to see something that was like very relevant to whatever, would be able to add that in there.
Yeah, definitely. So those are only the only 3 columns I chose. So I just did the first name, last name, and email address, but you can add as many things as you want to that. So to look for it. So then you can, you know, add the various columns and then also set up the various rules that you're wanting to give points to. So you can choose, you know, what points you're wanting to give to apply the winning rule. And then once you've got a formula that really works, then what our customers tend to do is to have it automated. So it schedules. So they have it running every week or, you know, running every month, and they get a report the next morning, this ran overnight and this cleaned how many duplicates are in your system. So you can go in and have a look at it.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Vaughn. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm just going to go back to demand tools just to quickly show you here with regards to how you'd look at your Salesforce org. So you can have your production org here on the right-hand side, but you can also have lots of sandboxes. So if you're doing lots of work and testing in sandboxes, you can test this in the sandboxes. So very easy just to be able to add a new sandbox to the org. And likewise, you know, if you have the tools and you have other people in the organization that you're wanting to share the tools to, you can just add their email address and set them up to be able to use the tools. And you can also choose which products of the tools they use. So I'm going to go back to sharing my slide deck. I don't know if there are any other questions in the meantime.
Deborah, can I just ask, what is the pricing structure?
Yeah, that's what I'm just going to show you now. So I'm just going to get this up for you now. So you should, let me just share my screen. There we go. Sorry, I'm trying to melt to between the different screens. Here we go. Okay, so share my screen. So the good thing is for the tools, you can try it free. So you should be able to see my screen now. So you can have a 14-day free trial of the Demand Tools Elements. So what it allows you to do is get an estimate of how many duplicates are in your Salesforce org right now, but also you can learn how to make duplicate-free data a sustainable priority with the templated scenarios and automation, which is what I just showed you. And you can buy it online, you know, just depending on the size of your organization. So Validity DemandTools is trusted by over 16,000 Salesforce orgs. So we've got a lot of Salesforce, a lot of companies using this to clean their Salesforce. And I'm going to go on to the next slide. Here we go. Just to tell you a little bit about what makes Demand Tools platform better. So the demand, yes.
Just a quick question. When it says that you're able to merge some records, what is some?
It's limited in the fact that obviously we can't have someone just kind of go into for 14 days and just go clean their data and then not use the tool. So I think there's a limit on how many you can use. I'm not 100% sure of the limit with regards to elements, but I can always check and kind of come back and confirm that.
Yeah, no, that would just be great, because it's sort of, I absolutely hear you. Yeah, you don't want someone being able to do that, because in 14 days you could get a lot of work done. But I guess it's just how much is there, especially if you're wanting to kind of install it, show a client how it works, or kind of show team how it works. And I just want to know what those parameters are, so we know kind of what that looks like. And you're not kind of saying like, yeah, I can demo at you, when you know that actually I can only do like 5, and then so you've got to be really careful. So if you'd let us know, that would be great. Thanks,
okay,
Debra.
perfect. I can let you know that that's not a problem at all. That's a good question. Thanks, Emma. So with regards to what makes DemandTools better, is DemandTools, has been outclassed by the other data management software because it has been going since 2004. But also what it allows, it's a Swiss Army knife of data management as a tool for every need. So I'll show you a little bit more detail on some of the other tools that you can use DemandTools for, but also supports countless CRM configurations and data processes. And it's an on-prem solution, so you can keep your data safe without limiting functionality or speed. And also it's the leading Salesforce solution because DemandTools have been going since 2004. So just to give you a little bit of background into DemandTools. So I'm just trying to find my thing here. This is what DemandTools V, the new product, have all the other different features. So you've got Assess, so you can actually run, now if you buy the full suite of DemandTools, you can run Assess and you can get a full report on how weak and how strong your data is, and also know where to fix it. You've got the dedupe scenario, which we've just gone through, but also you can go in and you can convert lead queue duplicate free within the tools. You've got Dupe Blocker, where you can put a preventative barrier around Salesforce to prevent duplicates being created, and that might work for your example earlier. I think you're asking about Yvonne, but also on the modify side, you can do mass modification of your data and get insights with just a few clicks. So you can actually pull up a spreadsheet like view of your data, and you can see whether those particular fields are getting filled in, and what you need to do to clean your data or to tidy things up. So say for example, billing is getting filled in but shipping isn't, then you can go in and you can do all this tidy up directly within the tools to fill in those fields. You can go in and you can delete and undelete, so you can remove old records, free up your storage space, and stay in compliance with data regulations within the tools. You can do import, so you can clearly add Salesforce and eliminate pre-import data prep. You can also export within the tools, and then you can reassign accounts. So say for example, if you're someone who's left your organization, you want to reassign accounts to someone else, you can just do it in a couple of clicks within the tools themselves. Validity also acquired another company after acquiring CRM Fusion or DemandTools, which is called Bright Verify. So you can do email verification, so you can add the API onto your website or web forms, and at the point of entry you can ensure you're getting valid email addresses to be able to create your journey with customers. Now the good thing is you can see we've got lots of customers who are using the tools, and there's lots of recommendations online. But the great thing is for nonprofits, which I was quite excited about, is that a lot of the nonprofits can qualify for being able to use the tools free. So if you're a nonprofit that your assets are under $250,000, then you can apply to get the full suite of DemandTools. So it wouldn't only be the DemandTools elements. So you can, all you have to do is just prove that your assets are under this amount, and then you can have the use of the tools for your organization, which is great news. And then also, Validity as a company, we're all about ensuring that you can achieve high quality CRM data and keep your Salesforce database clean and standardized and free of duplicates. So, as a company, we're all about building long-term relationships with donors and bringing more awareness to your cause, and also being able to leverage easy to use modules and features that can boost the results of your fundraising strategies and save money on campaign messaging. So over the last 15 years, our program has provided 65 million to the not-for-profit community, and it's still counting. So there are links here where you can see if you're able to get the tools. I don't know how many of you think you'd be eligible to get the tools free of charge.
What do you define as an asset?
That's always a good question. Let me go back a slide and see if it goes into any more detail on what's defined as an asset.
Like it's got found on line 20 of your form 990. I can't say I know what that is. Maybe it's just
that's probably more of an American thing. So you probably find David will know that's a lot more of an American tool. So I think if you just kind of convert it across to the pound. So say, for example, you are a non-profit, but you own your own property and the property is worth, you know, £500,000, and that then you wouldn't be eligible. So that's what it's meaning on the asset side. Does that answer your question?
Kind of.
Yeah, I think it's classed as an asset, so it's what is owned by the organization. So I guess even if you've got an organization that's turning over millions, if they actually have no assets because they rent their building and they, you know, and all of that, then they would potentially qualify. I would think that finance would know, because they will have to, at the end of the year on their tax return, will have to probably confirm how much they've got in assets.
Yeah, most of the time you would know that you could just kind of go to finance and ask, and they would know what documentation to provide. So it's never normally a problem for people to be able to provide that if they qualify. Otherwise, if you don't qualify, we offer, you know, a 20% discount off the many Validity products. So we'll also work very closely with nonprofits to get you supported, because we know you're always working with very fine, you know, you're working with good causes, and we'd love to support you with those.
So when we're looking at something like just the Validity Elements product, what price does that come out at?
Okay, so that price, I'm just going to go back to my slides. Here we go. It was, it's all done on how many users you have. So I'm just going to go back here to show you. Sorry, I went past it. So there we go. So your DemandTools Elements starts at £5 a month per CRM license that you have. So if you have an org of 10, then you'll work it out that way.
And then
$5, sorry.
And then a non-profit gets 20% off that.
I'm not sure, because this is all done online. So with regards to Elements, you'd purchase everything online. So I'm not sure the nonprofits would get that if it's an online purchase. I think if it's anything more and you're dealing with one of, you know, the account managers or salespeople at Validity, then that would be a different story.
Can I just check?
Because this would just be an online.
Sorry, Deborah. Can I just check with the monthly amount? Is there a minimum number of licenses? So if you've got a tiny charity with 1 or 2 users, is it literally $5 or $10 a month, or is it actually a minimum?
There's no minimum. So I think if you have, say, for example, 10, it's all done by your Salesforce license count. So if you've got 10 people using Salesforce, that's how it's worked out. It's not done by how many people are going to be using the tools, because it's all done that people are going to be working with clean data that they trust.
Okay, thanks.
And then I suppose the other question might be just kind of what licenses are included in that license count, because if you've got something like Experience Cloud, I would not expect them to be included, but obviously they could be. I would hope they're not, because, you know, they're people logging into a portal and they're not exactly touching your data.
Yeah, so it all really depends on the different license count as to how that would work out. So normally
is there any documentation around that you can share, just for those of us that might be kind of recommending products and stuff? I think that would be really helpful to be able to, you know, actually, because you might have people who straight away say, oh, well, we couldn't do that because we've got Experience Cloud. And then you can be like, well, actually, if they're not included, let's say, you can immediately say we can take those out, and then we kind of know what we're looking at. Because like Mary, thank you for asking that question. I was wondering about minimum as well, because I know I've got a couple of potential charities who've got quite small numbers and could really benefit from something like that. And often it's that minimum cost of a product that means that, you know, it's so much per user, and then they get a minimum cost and they're like, yeah, but we can't meet that minimum cost. So that's good to know.
And I think that's why Validity have launched the whole new web store. So we've got the web store because we'd like to be able to make this available to, you know, any organization. So it used to only be, you know, up to 100 users. Now you can just go and purchase it online. So if it is a smaller organization, then you do have that access to just being able to go and purchase the tools online, or you might qualify for the not-for-profit grant.
Amazing. Does anybody have any questions for Deborah? By the way, David had to jump because he had somewhere else to be, so he's jumped off. And I think we've had a couple of others who've had to jump off for meetings and so forth. But does anybody have anything else to ask Deborah about? has anybody got any experience using any of the Validity products? I know I've used DemandTools before and found it super helpful.
I have not, but I wish I had.
It does make your job so much easier. So I think what Emma says is, once you've started using the tools and you see how powerful it is and how much easier it makes your role, then you literally, if you go somewhere else, you know, a lot of people go, we have to have this to do our jobs. So it's a really good product.
Absolutely. And I think it saves you so much time. And I think being able to put those scenarios in and things as well. And yeah, I know I spent many hours cleaning data with DemandTools, but equally, you know, well-used hours, and it gets you there a lot faster than any sort of manual attempt. You know, I've used it at a couple of quite big organizations, and it's definitely very helpful and very accurate. What I like is when you do the mergers. So the question I always used to get asked was like, yeah, but how does it do it? And I say, well, it does it the same way Salesforce does it. So, you know, you're happy for us to merge like the two contacts attached to the account. It's literally the same process, you know, so all that data attached to those contacts will merge, you know, and it will bring that over. So if they were on one opportunity and another opportunity and you merge them together, well, they've now got two opportunities for the one contact. And yeah, that's good.
Saves you lots of time. But thank you very much, Emma. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for coming. I think that was really helpful. Right, so before we start breakouts, I'm going to just stop our recording. So thank you to anyone who has watched our recording.